Today we're going to take a look at well-known IS-3 tank. Let's begin with the basic informations. IS-3 was a heavy tank developed in Soviet Union at the end of the Second World War. In 1944, an Object 703 was developed by engineers from Chelyabinsk tractor plant. First tank had left in May of the 1945. Earliest vehicles were assigned to an independent guards battalion, but they arrived just after German capitulation and were not involved in the combat. Nevertheless, the world was able to see Stalin's new tanks on 7th September Victory Parade in Berlin. During this parade, Americans presented just light tanks M24 Chaffee and 8 Greyhound armored cars, whereas the Red Army presented IS-3s. These tanks had made a huge impression on Western leaders, maybe even to the point of the fear. And this fear was real, because Western tanks were outdated and Cold War were just around the corner. All of that leads to start of the British Conqueror program and American M103 program. In the next part of the video, I will describe why Western leaders feared the IS-3 so much. And now I'm going to talk about technical properties of the IS-3 and why Western leaders was feared so much about this tank. To the start, the Soviet Beast weighed just over 46 tons. It was 9.85 meters long, 3.15 meters wide and 2.45 meters high. It was crewed by 4 tankers, a commander, gunner, loader and driver. The IS-3's armor was really effective, because its thickness was combined with a slope which led to a huge effective armor thickness. The IS-3 turret was a real fortress, with the 250 millimeters of the cast and rolled steel at the front and its slope to multiply the thickness to a massive 400 millimeters of an effective armor. Sides of the turret had thickness from 75 to 220 millimeters, depends on the place. Rear of the turret from 70 up to 120 millimeters. Hull front was 110 millimeters thick, sides were around 90 millimeters, whereas rear hull was 60 millimeters. And now, there it comes, the firepower. IS-3 main gun was 122 millimeters enormously powerful cannon. Shells fired from such a cannon were able to penetrate Panther tank front armor from 2.5 kilometers. However, the gun caliber was so big that the crew could only carry 28 rounds in a tank. Usually, tankers carried 20 high explosive and 8 armor-piercing rounds. One of the turret and cannon cones was little gun depression, only 3 degrees, so even the high ground could not be very effective in this tank. Main gun was supported by 12.7 millimeters heavy machine gun pintle on the turret roof and 7.62 millimeter coaxial machine gun. Crew had 50 rounds ready to fire from the 12.7 millimeters and 63 rounds ready to fire from 7.2 millimeters gun. Non-modified IS-3s didn't have radio station nor noctovision. These features were added in the further modifications, which I will cover in other part of the video. And now, let's take a look at tank's mobility, which was provided by V2IS diesel engine, which assured tank crew with 520 horsepower and 2200 RPM. IS-3 top speed was 40 km per hour on the road and 16 km per hour off-road. Its fuel capacity, including external and internal tanks, was 785 liters, which provided approximately 300 km range on road and 150 km off the road. And now, I want to talk about IS-3 modifications, because despite the fact that Allies were afraid of the new tank, IS-3 was plagued by various problems. First, tanks were too heavy, and in order to fix this, the lower hull has been slimmed down, which has brought other problems. IS-3 stability was interrupted, which led to excessive vibrations and consequently to cracking of the gearbox mountings. The turret also had its problems. At first glance, very heavily armored, but to get that level of armory, the engineers sacrificed space in the turret, so that the crew had little room there. Efforts had been made to address these problems and new modifications were created. The most popular version was IS-3M. In the 1950s, all of IS-3s were modernized to this standard. IS-3M provided structural modifications, heavy machine gun, and R-113 short-range radio. In 60s, they added the V-54K IS engine derived from T-54. IS-3s did not see many conflicts. They were used in border disputes between Soviet Union and China when some Soviet IS-3s were dug in fixed pillboxes along the Soviet-Chinese border. The IS-3 was used in 1956 in Soviet intervention in Hungary, as well as Prague Spring in 1968. And that was IS-3 story that I wanted to tell you today. Thanks for watching, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments what piece of equipment described next time. See you!